Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you're having a fantastic day. We're going to take a quick look here at the altcoin crypto market overview. We're going to talk about how Donald Trump is essentially signing executive orders for the 401k, and obviously as well, US passing a nice major bill here for the Genius Act, I think it's called. So we're going to take a look at a handful of things here. Be sure to stick around. The other thing as well that's very important is Bitcoin dominance, kind of understanding how this correlates with the price action, as well as some volatility and obviously altcoins and how well they're doing just in general. Okay, so we're going to take a look at that and much more. If you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. I hope you can learn something today. Comment below if you get a chance. Love to hear your thoughts. Now let's take a look here at the crypto market overview first. Just kind of get a baseline and understand that altcoin season index is super high right now. We can see 47 up from 38. Basically implying that as soon as the news was released yesterday, things went crazy, including like all-time highs for XRP. I'm sure the fanboys are just loving it right now, but a lot of it hinges on the fact that we had this executive order to add crypto to 401k yesterday. That was a big deal, in addition to a handful of crypto laws getting passed that are more so positive for the macro, right? So it's a very, very good sign here. And just to clarify though, right now, where we're at, Bitcoin is losing its ascending trend. So I just want to kind of be clear and transparent. I do feel like we might see a bit of a correction here today or tomorrow or maybe the weekend. And if that does happen, altcoins are going to probably pull back fairly significant just because they're all very overextended. There's so much liquidation in the market right now that has to pull back or slow down by at least a small margin. Okay, but no matter how you look at it, you're much better off taking longs versus shorts. Just adjust your stop loss higher as we continue into profit. And some of the coins that we trade, Dogwave, HAT, Ethereum, Solana, they're all doing very well. They're doing better than Bitcoin. These are the coins you want to consider investing in. Either way you look at it here, the last thing to kind of summarize is that derivatives here, when we look at open interest, it is coming down while it's actually starting to plateau and kind of even out here today. That does tell us a shift in momentum is happening, but we've also got some converse, something that's working conversely here too, which is our ETF net inflow. If we look at the larger time frame, we can recognize this is like the largest we've seen in quite some time, ever since December of last year when Trump was, in the runnings to become president. Just prior to his inauguration, we saw a lot of ETF inflows coming in with that new anticipation of crypto laws, right? And now we're seeing 2 strong weeks here in a row, and this week hasn't even finished yet, basically implying sustainability at the $118,000 range for Bitcoin. So losing 118 is a conversation for another day, of course. If you watch my analysis, you'll know. But the whole premise here is that if Bitcoin loses that support, we may see a pullback here soon. But at this point, most things are looking strong and bullish. So let's go ahead and start with a kind of the bird's eye view, the overview here, I guess, if you will. For crypto market Bitcoin dominance, for example, we have 4 strong red candles here, basically just telling us we have continuation of the downside. We didn't see any bottoming out yesterday from altcoins, mainly because we had a fundamental catalyst, which leads me to believe that we are going to see a correction in the relative near future here for altcoins based on the simple fact that this has to slow down at some point. It seems kind of crazy for it to continue on this long at this price point for Bitcoin. So good news is altcoins are rocking and rolling. Bad news is I feel like we're hitting an overextended state. We've even got our volume range notification here. That's what this green bar is. This doesn't happen too often. Usually when we're massively overextended, it'll tell us that. So it basically just implies that altcoins, while they're doing well right now, I think a short-term correction makes perfect sense, specifically leading into a weekend here. We got a very strong market leading into the weekend. Generally, that implies sell-off or selling pressure. Other than that, last thing we want to kind of take a look at before we jump into the overview here is just volatility index is starting to plateau here. This is basically just kind of letting us know that we're going sideways in the range for Bitcoin. And as this continues to maintain itself, the more likelihood we have of shifting momentum, if you will. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking at there. So let's take a quick look here at Ethereum to kind of start things off and kind of give you an understanding of where we're at here with this coin. Now, Ethereum is a strong coin right now, but we are 2, maybe 3 days into a massive overextension. So we haven't seen any correction, any pullback from this coin, which implies that some kind of sell-off could very well and should very well happen. Let's go ahead and refresh the charts here and just double check the back-end liquidation data and kind of get some perspective here. When we look at open interest, we'll go ahead and start with that. we have 3,500, 3,450, and 3,400 respectively. So 3 areas of concentration there at each $50 mark, emphasizing support in those ranges. That's basically those heavy concentrations of accumulation. Liquidation long delta is super high at about 25 billion, tapering off a little bit. I'm willing to speculate this is going to come down because this is the highest I've seen it in a very, very long time. And ultimately, what goes up must come down because longs can't just keep going up. Like it has to dissipate at some point because people are going to start selling and taking profit, especially as we enter that resistance range of 3,700 to 4,100. When we look at the overall sentiment here, though, just to quickly clarify, there's not much to kind of note when it comes to liquidation. There is some above the price at 3,700 to 3,800, so that's kind of that resistance range for us. Keep in mind, liquidation occurs at resistance ranges. It doesn't necessarily, it's not the inverse there, right? In other words, liquidation occurs at places where people feel the most comfortable, right? So people are very comfortable in the sense that the price action shouldn't go much higher than 3,700, 3,800 based on the short information we're looking at there. Okay, so let's look at the daily time frame and just recognize once more we're +2 on overextension. So we've been moving ever since Tuesday of last week in the upward direction for about a 46% continuation in approximately 11 days. Generally speaking, you're due to see a correction around like day 10, 11, 12, 13, anywhere after the 9 essentially reflected here, and we can see that significant continuation with no pullback yet. So I think a pullback would make sense. And just to clarify, 3,100 to 3,150 is that solid amount of support based on the golden pocket. We have a lot of volume in that range, and just in general, a strong base between 25 and 2,900. So a lot of good stuff there. Ultimately, just letting us know if the price pulls back, there's a significant potential for a correction at that level. Other than that, daily time frame just tells us we're massively overextended here. When RSI is up over 85 or 80, pretty much at 85 or higher, that's usually a point in which the price action will slow down. We're also seeing here as well, there's potential also for the, we're looking at the stochastics also topping out, and money flow index is at 95. These are all very, very massively overextended situations, letting us know that a pullback short term, albeit likely short term, is likely. However, do recognize this though, volume is still very high, right? Generally, high volume creates very unique and unusual trading conditions, which we're seeing right now. There's not much else to note on lower timeframes, really. We're just seeing we have a double overextension here as well, where we should have pulled back at 3,400, didn't, and now we're still very high. So my anticipation is a short-term correction for Ethereum makes sense. I don't think we'll see 3,100, but I think the $3,300 to $3,400 range makes perfect sense to me, just based on the expectation of Bitcoin pulling back by a small margin. So let's take a look here at Solana next here. So back-end data for Solana. What are we looking at here? Well, open interest is pretty heavy at about 176. Okay, we talked about that previously being kind of a support potential range. We also want to recognize 168 to 165 as that secondary support based on open interest. Overall, though, liquidation long delta is still high. It's tapering off, of course, which is natural and good. We want that to happen, just like RSI is pulling back. But the overall sense here is that 170 is probably that next likely area. That's not only a previous high, but also a local low. So we do see a retest. 170 would be a better case scenario for us. So we're looking at 170 to 165 as that key level range for us here based on support. So once more, we got a golden pocket fib level there. We've got overextension and continuation, a likelihood of further downside here just on the short term. Now, do I think that we're going to see a massive continuation down? No, but I do think that a correction would make sense concurrent with Bitcoin pulling back likely this weekend. Now, overall, that's kind of where we're at there on the 4-hour time frame. Let's quickly recognize the daily and just kind of understand here too that once more we got a lot of confluence at the low 160s for that 200-day SMA as well. So that's important to recognize. The other thing also to note is that we've got a significant resistance here at 185. So we've seen that level retested 3 times now. And if you didn't know this too as well, if you haven't been following my channel for a while, you'll see there's a lot of confluence from before. That level was tested multiple times until we lost it. So it's like a strong brick wall, so to speak, for us at 185. So breaking above 185 approximately will be a very strong or good indication that we've broken bullish on this coin. For right now, we're still kind of slow and steady. This isn't pretty, but it is somewhat of a cup and handle pattern, right? Or double bottom, depending on how you consider it. either way, Solana is looking pretty strong, and I think we're in pretty good shape there. Okay, so let's take a look here at SUI next. Jumping on over to SUI. We want to jump on over to the open interest and recognize $4 is that heavy area of resistance, upwards of 410. Now, this is a coin that we've taken some profits on recently, just to kind of give you some clarity here. We can see that SUI, we took 33% profit there in 3 days. So we shorted the coin a few days ago. Yes, it spiked up, but it held below that $4 resistance. We had a pretty significant fake out yesterday. So my anticipation is we're going to continue lower, and I'll show you on the smaller timeframes what that means and why I feel that way. But on the back end here, the open interest range above the price action emphasizes resistance. So please understand, we got a lot of resistance above the price. We take a look here, of course, as well at, see here, liquidation delta. It has shifted bearish. So if you can see that there is a little bit of red there, implying we have more shorts than longs now on SUI. And if we do take a look at liquidation, while this is a bit on the concentrated side, we can see 380 to 350 as that lower area of liquidation, just below the price. This is a 7-day look back. So those things all kind of contribute to the fact that we're seeing a shift in momentum on SUI. And if we look at these lower timeframes too, this is why I feel like we're going to see a continuation lower, is just based on the simple fact that we're likely to see a bearish backtest of our ascending trend. This is a broadening wedge pattern. Generally, the price action will work itself into a higher high, higher low pattern, but also kind of spreading out, so to speak. And what that does tell us is it tells us that the bulls are losing control in this upper range. Majority of all liquidation has been fully swept, the macro liquidation, and now the price goes down as a manipulation tactic. So it's kind of standard trading 101, because if you saw my analysis from yesterday, you'll know we had a liquidation range between 410 and 430. We whipped up to 425, almost a perfect sweep of that level. So that's kind of where we're at there. And now the likelihood of the price rejecting off this local point of control at $4, and obviously, once again, the area of open interest, it just makes sense that we're going to see a little bit further of a continuation lower. The only thing that would cause us to go much higher is if we see a significant push from Bitcoin to the upside this weekend. That may trigger a break of this resistance. So something to pay attention to. Last but not least is XRP. Let's take a quick look at this guy here. This is one of the big ones, right? And I'm sure a lot of moon boys are just eating this right up. But I can tell you too, from an overall standpoint, when it comes to breaking key level resistances or all-time highs, things get a little funky when it comes to price discovery. Okay, so 340, just so you know, was that previous all-time high. That's likely going to work as a new low if we can consolidate and close above that today, tomorrow, or this weekend, essentially. That's kind of one of those key levels. Losing that, we may be incentivized to go down a bit lower to the I think it was 310 to 290 range is that next area of support. But based on open interest, 325 is another area that we may see some slowing pressure. So we'll probably see a pivot or a bounce off 325. If we lose that once more, $3 seems sensible. Overall, though, liquidation long delta is still quite high at $2 billion. It reached a max of $4 billion. We haven't seen that kind of number yet. But that was all based on, once more, Trump allowing the executive order, or putting that executive order into place with 401k plans and crypto, or crypto and 401k. So just note that was a fundamental catalyst. That's what XRP is. It's a fundamental mover. So please understand, anytime there's some kind of bigger crypto related stuff, it's going to move with the market and faster than the market in most cases. So just kind of recognize that. Now, overall, back-end data here, just to kind of complete lists here, we can recognize as well, 320 to 310 is that local area of liquidation. Now, from a macro perspective, let's go ahead and zoom out and look at the daily. Just kind of recognize we are in price discovery now. So once more, 340 is that area. We can continue to close above this level for another day or two. Likelihood of further upside is higher. Generally, what you'll see is you'll see pennants and or flag patterns occur in these type of continuation patterns. So pay attention to that, or we will, of course. We'll take a look at that tomorrow, and just recognize between now and then, there is a fair value gap as low as 310. So this coin has a lot more volume flowing into it, more sustainability, likelihood of further upside. But I would say, if you're going to consider trading this coin, I would just recommend waiting for a lower price point before you take a long at what feels like the top. Me personally, thinking that we may see a continuation a bit lower here this weekend for altcoins based on Bitcoin coming down a little bit. There's a decent chance we do see that, but this coin is also very emotional. And what I mean by that is the traders that traded are emotional, and they're ones that are just going to be just shoving money into the market. So you never truly know what's going to happen with this coin. Betting against it, though, is not a good idea. We actually had to close our short position early at right around 340 once it invalidated, because it broke through that key level resistance and kept going. Okay. Sometimes you have to make those calls though, folks, and it's just kind of part of trading. But overall, generally trading into key level resistance is usually a good thing. Just got kind of unlucky with that fundamental catalyst that drove the price higher. So right now we're in that state of euphoria. Just enjoy it while it's here because it's not going to last forever. All right, folks, I hope you learned something today. Thanks again so much for watching. We'll look forward to seeing the next one. Have a good rest of your day out there. Take care.